What's up, cool kids? This is Daisy Collins of TsunamiRose.net coming at you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. And today I am starting on a new junk journal here using this really vintage book. It is from, I believe, 1925. So it's nice and old. And it's called The Red Lamp, but it's a green book, so I think that's kind of funny. And so we're going to be using my hidden spine method here that I used on my last vintage book, which is this right here. So you can see the spine is, the signatures are sewn into this fabric spine that I attach to the book. And then there's nothing on the spine. Hello, Carrie Ann, welcome. So for me, this is processed as normal. This is the normal way I make my junk journals. Hi, Patricia. So I have this really vintage book, and the way that you should buy your books is you should be able to stick your finger in between the book and the spine. So that's the kind of book that you want. And today I'm actually going to try and see if I can use this cutter right here. It's a different type of blade. I wonder if it'll work. I could even just tear the paper right here by myself. Okay, so I think it kind of works. It's keeping the spine intact. Kind of try and move the spine off. There's also this netting you have to go through right now. Oops. Okay, got it. On that side. Spine is intact so far. I have no idea what this is called at all. Hi, Irina. Hi, Deline. Welcome. And on the inside today, I'm going to be using this quilt fabric that I made. You can use whatever type of fabric that you have. If it's just one solid piece, that's cool. I showed you guys how to make this in another video. I've been using all the kind of quilts that I have. Let's see. Let's get this. It makes me go a little bit slower than my normal blade. Okay. We got it detached. I'll set that aside. And my cover seems to have suffered minimal damage. No direct slice throughs. It is see-through, but I think that's just because it's really old fabric. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut off all these like little crusty bits off here. These little crusty, busted pieces over here. Okay, be careful not to slice the cover in this process because that could happen. Don't ask how I know. Just gonna cut this off here. And today what we're going to do is we're going to reinforce the spine and make the fabric for the cover. And then tomorrow we'll come back and sew in the actual signatures. So that's how this process is going to go. So what we have to do now is I need to get an envelope. It is somewhere. There it is. Okay. So this stuff is called Tyvek. It's like a plastic woven type of material. This is a blank envelope. You could get one of these from the post office, just one, and it'll last you forever. Or you could go to Home Depot, and apparently they have it in tape, and I could see how that could be beneficial. I could definitely see how that would be nice. It would make this step easier, this next step easier, but Not that it's really a hard step when you're working with an envelope. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to cut a piece that is maybe an inch to the left of the spine and an inch to the right. So maybe like right here. And you want it to be shorter than the length of this brown paper right here. So the paper that's inside the book. So I'm going to make it maybe, it's totally crooked here on my end. So I think I'm going to use an actual paper cutter. I don't know if it'll actually cut with this paper cutter. I actually don't even know if this will work. I need a new blade for this thing. Okay, so let me cut this. That's not even straight. Nothing is straight on this envelope. Okay, good. It cuts. And we have a straight edge. Good. Okay. Now I've put these in looking all crazy also, so that's also fine. Okay. Let's try and be a little bit neater. Okay, so I have my little piece here for the spine. Like I said, it's this way. So let's work with that. I have my glue. I use a little silicone brush here for this. And this is the little surface that I used to glue on. It is the back of the heat and bond. And I'm just going to use this to glue on basically. And the glue that I like to use is this Turbo Tacky glue by Eileen's. This is one of my favorite glues because it dries really fast, and also because I can use it for my spine, like all of this work, as well as just to attach embellishments to a page on a journal. So it's basically my all-around multi-purpose glue. So I don't have to have different glues. So that's nice. Now we're going to put this here, like I said, in between this paper. Lay it down, get the glue off your fingers. And then you're going to need a bone folder. Hello, Tammy. And Golden Author. Who else did I not say hi to? And we're going to go ahead and work this Tyvek into the grooves here of the spine. That's really important. Okay. So the next step is this. I think this piece is already the perfect size. All right. So the next part is to take a piece of this is a cereal box. Oh my gosh. And we are going to cut this to be the size of this spine here. Just a little bit smaller than it. Not exactly the size of the spine, but smaller. And I'll show you how to make sure that yours is the right size. Sometimes I don't get it right the first time. I'll show you how I check. Okay, so here I'm going to cut this part off so that way I get the size of the spine. And the size of the spine should be, like I said, the size of this paper inside. That's kind of my guideline for this. Hey, Bonnie. Welcome, girl. Okay, so this piece is going to go in here. And like I said, the way I check is I close it. And sometimes you'll have trouble closing it. And that's how you know you have it too wide, so you cut it down just a little bit. So right here, I have no problems closing it. It's perfect. So we'll go ahead and glue that down. I'm going to glue that down with this paint job side down. So I got glue. I guess it doesn't matter. Sometimes if it matters, right now it doesn't. So let's just get the glue on here. And I love to use these little silicone brushes, you guys, for this part. It's just the best. I imagine this would be good with any type of, silky glue. And I'll leave my link. Adeline says, I just sent you an email with the link to a video I saw today about making vintage looking tape. Ooh, I want to look at that. Thank you. I'm going to check it out. Thank you, because that sounds really cool. I love that yellow tape look. Okay, so we're just going to glue the spine there. Like I said, in between this paper, that's my guide. Okay, so that is our spine. It is now reinforced. So now my edges here are safe from damage, from being open and closed, because they have this nice Tyvek. Always work on this a little bit more. Okay. And I do this part here in between because I don't like my book to be squishy. If you don't put this book part right here, your spine will be smaller because it's not stiff, so it'll compress with the fabric part. If you're okay with that, then that's cool too. Okay, so the next step here in this process is to make the fabric that's going to go inside here, right? So that's what I need to do, and I want to use this side of this quilt material that I made. So let me get this cut. I need my rotary cutter and my cutting mat. Okay. So I am going to measure. Wait, I'm going to get. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, fine. This will work for now. I have. Normally, I have my cutting mat, the actual clear piece for the Sizzix that I use as a guide, but here we are. So I'm going to use this as a guide here. And I'm using my book as a template also. I'm going to cut that so that way it's only so much of this that I use, and I can use this on another project right here. Isn't it beautiful? I feel like you could lay this down and have a picnic. Okay. So this is the inside that'll be inside this journal here. And this is what we're going to sew our signatures into to make it that hidden spine. So now I'm going to turn this fabric into paper. That is my next step. And we do that because Well, I could glue this to the inside. It's kind of transparent on some parts of the fabric and not transparent on others, and I'm just not okay with that. So, like I said, I like to basically almost put a backing on this, which is paper. So to do that, I'm going to need a different mat. Here it is. My ironing mat. And I need my iron. So this is the next step here. I need to find a link to one of these. I think it's called Iron Mat. I don't know. That's what I would call it. Okay, so I have my iron plugged in to the highest setting. And what I need is this stuff called Heat and Bond Ultra Hold. Heat and Bond Ultra Hold. And there's a difference between the Heat and Bond Ultra Hold and the Heat and Bond Light. If you decide that you are going to sew on your project and do all sorts of different fancy stitches, you should use the Heat and Bond Light. If you're going to be like me, and I've tested this out, I can do zigzag stitches and straight stitches. So Heat and Bond Ultra Hold is what I'm going to be using today. They cost the same, but they have different uses. So I have both. They cost like $8 for like a 5-yard roll over at Walmart. So that's nice. Oh, I forgot. I could still use my cutting mat to make this a little bit easier. Okay. I want to cut a size that's the same as this quilt material here that I'm going to be using. So I'm trying to get it exactly to be about the size of it. Exactly about, I don't know if that's a term. It's a scientific term. Okay, so let's get this cut out here. And you could just use a scissor. I am just being lazy and trying to be somewhat exact. Trim this part. Ha ha. Ha ha. There's this saying in Spanish from an old cartoon, or an old kids show, I should say. But everybody kind of watched it. An old Mexican show. And the phrase goes, no contaban con mi astucia. So anytime you do something clever, you're like, oh, you didn't count on me being so clever. That's that's what I thought about when I switched my little board there. Okay. I could use one of those rotating mats. You sent me a text regarding the iron mat. Let me read the text because I need to know. Because people have been asking. And it's called Iron Mat with Silicone Pad Heat Resistant. Okay, I'll add that to the link and I'll leave it in the description below for everybody that wants to know. Okay, so this is going to go here. And I believe, was it this way? Yeah, I think it was this right here. Okay. So, now that we have your fabric and your piece of heat and bond, the heat and bond has a shiny side that feels bumpy. And then there's a smooth side that's dull and not shiny and looks like paper. So the bumpy, shiny side is what we are going to iron the wrong side of our fabric to. Okay, so in the process of using all these heat and bond to make your journals, like I do, you're going to end up with a lot of heat and bond backing. So this is what's going to come off the back of this project right here. So let me, I guess I used it to glue on. That's not good. I'm going to use the back of this part right here. You can use it in sections just because right here you're going to have a little bit of glue sometimes. And you don't want that to stick to your mat. And you don't want that to stick to your iron. Hang on. Let me grab a clean piece. And you're gonna, if you buy this 5-piece, 5-yard pack of heat and bond, you will end up with 5 yards of this material. So this is what I like to use it for. Because like I said, I mean, you got to use it a couple times. You can't just throw it away. That's how I feel. It's plastic. I got to use it up a little bit more. Okay, so I have the shiny side of this facing up. I have the fabric facing down. And then I have the the actual glue part of the heat and bond that we're gluing to the fabric facing the wrong side of the fabric. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to slide your iron around. You want to move your iron to the next spot. And you'll see it start to work when you see the translucent fabric coming through the heat and bond material. And like I said, this is what I actually sew my signatures into to make this a hand spine junk journal method. Again, you want to melt that heat and bond glue all the way around. Like I said, don't move your iron, just move it, like place it, is what I'm trying to say. Pick it up and put it to the next spot. Because you don't want to move the heat and bond around. It moves around because, you know, the glue is like liquidy at this point because you're melting it. So it will shift around. So you definitely want to pick up and place the iron to the next spot. And I do this for a while, probably longer than I should. And this is on very, very hot. My iron is on the hottest, highest setting it could be on. Is it okay to iron on the shiny side facing up? Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. The glue will stick to the shiny side, which this has no glue on it because it's used. So now I gotta let it cool down. I literally put it next to my fan here so that it cools down. You could also wave it around and it'll cool down eventually. And you want to pull it off the spot that you were just ironing on. And then now you have the heat and bond on the back of your fabric. And again, I'm using heat and bond ultra hold because I'm just going to do zigzag stitch and a straight stitch. And you can do those stitches with the heat and bond even though it's no sew. But you cannot do that with the other one. You can't do fancy stitches on this one. So if you want to do fancy stitches, you want to use the heat and bond light. Okay, so now we need to peel off the heat and bond. And this is what I'm saying. This is the backing that you're going to end up with 5 yards of if you do this method. You will end up with 5 yards of this paper. So like I said, I use this to do other things. I use this to paint on. I use this to glue on. I use this for a lot of things. I use this over and over and over. You can put glue on here and the next day come and just peel it right off and use it again. But I have 5 yards of it. Okay. So here we go. We have our fabric side, and then we have our shiny side on our back, on the wrong side of the fabric that has glue. So this is essentially glue that we just added to this fabric piece. And now we need to, like I said, I wanted to make this fabric piece into paper. So I need to add paper. So the paper I like to use is this gray material from Walmart. It's their brand packing paper. So basically, if you were to move and you wanted to cover your dishes and your cups and your glass cups and your, all that kind of stuff, and you wanted to pack it in a box, you would use this paper right here to do so. And this paper basically is basically thick tissue paper is what it is. Is probably 5 times the thickness of tissue paper, but not quite yet printer paper. And so what I'm doing is, again, I'm using a piece of heat and bond to use as a barrier between my iron and the heat and bond, because right here there's some edges that might have some glue, so I don't want that to touch my iron. So like I said, I use another piece of heat and bond. If you don't have a piece of heat and bond, you might want to use, what would I use if I didn't have this? You could just go ahead and like pick off the glue before you do this part. That's what you could do, because the glue is literally like a piece of plastic that's really thin. You could just peel it right off before you iron it. So I'm ironing the glue side down to the paper. And you could use tissue paper, but it's a little, it'll work. If you have a really solid piece of fabric, like mine has a lot of pieces that are like really light colored and kind of see-through fabrics. But if you have a really thick piece of fabric that's not see-through at all, you could just use tissue paper. I myself, hi Tanya, I myself prefer to use this material right here because it makes my fabric less see-through. Well, entirely not see-through, I should say. And like I said, I could iron directly on it. It's just these little edges had a little bit of glue on it, so I did not want to get that on my iron. And right here, you can move it around. That's fine. It's just when it's on the plastic and the glue is liquidy that it'll slide around. Okay, so now my fabric is backed on the paper. And now I can cut it out. Let me get my iron away from me. Get it away. Okay, so now we just gotta cut it out, right? So that's it. And I've gotten addicted to using my rotary cutter now. You could also back this onto a piece of cardstock and bam, you have a journal cover. Just like that. Of course I got glue on the cover. No, I didn't. It came right off. Okay, good. Again, you could just cut this out with your scissors. But me being me, I'm using my little rotary cutter now for everything, I guess. Okay. So let's cut this here. And I'm trying to make it even at the same time for the next step. As even as I can. I'm just trying to cut off the paper that it's on. And this line is straight here. Use that as a guide. Okay. Right there. Okay. This piece. And now we have turned our fabric into paper. So now basically it's a piece of paper, which is perfect for what we need to do in our next step, which is essentially cut it perfectly to this size right here. But I don't know if this is perfectly even. It's really not, and that really bothers me. So let me even it out with my cutter. It's actually, that's why I want to use the cutter also, not because I want it to be cut, because I want it to be even. Okay, one second. So, actually, I need to get it even. Quick question. Should you keep separate rotary blade cutters for fabric and paper like we do for scissors? I am not used to rotary cutters. I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. Maybe. Probably. I don't know. That's a question for a higher pay grade than me. I'm just kidding. I really don't know. I just use it for the same thing, and then when it becomes dull, I get a new one. I ordered them off Amazon, the rotary blades, and they're so cheap. At Walmart, they're almost like $5 each blade. On Amazon, I think I got like 30 of them. No, like 10 of them for $10. Okay. Okay, so now I made this paper a little bit taller because it's too short. So I need to make this straight here. I know the edge is straight. I believe it's straight. I just can't go on to the next step knowing that this is not exactly straight. Okay. And I'm using my Fiskars rotary cutter here. It's called the Precision Cutter. And I love it. But I use a piece of cardstock to help me get it more stable. Sometimes it's a little bit better if it's thicker. It'll even cut it better. Okay. So now this should be a lot more even. Okay, so now I can cut it to size. Yeah, that looks, it's just because it's lifted right here. It was not looking even, but I think it's because the edge here was lifted. Okay, so now we got to get it cut down to size exactly to how it needs to be, which is exactly the size of this brown paper. So the size of the cover, that's the paper that's in your cover, that's the exact paper, that's the exact size I want to cover with this right here. You could use your one size of fabric, like I said, your one fabric. I'm just using this quilted material that I made. Safina says, don't have Walmart here, so I will look on Amazon. Look on Amazon, and it's cheaper than Walmart, so don't even worry about Walmart then. Don't even worry about it. Just make sure you get the same. Oh, I don't think this is even at all. This does not look even at all. That's such a bust. The side, I guess the sides of it are not even. Let me see. Okay. Okay, I guess the side of it is not even. This side is not even. So then that means the rest of it is not even. 1 second as I try to get this even. Oh my god, never ending quest. Never ending quest here. Okay. There we go. That's not bad. Just missed this one piece right here. Okay. So hopefully this is more even. Okay. Which is why I always cut out a bigger piece of fabric than I need. Just to even it out and even it out, even it out. Sometimes it takes a while. So you cut it down, you cut it down, you cut it down to you're left with a small piece, you know, so it's better to use a big piece. Okay. So now let's measure and get it cut down to size now that we're nice and even. Now that we're finally nice and even. Again, I'm going to measure to the exact size of this paper. Right here. And then the height of it. Make sure it's all up here. And mark it. I don't measure. Maybe I should, but I don't. So let's get this cut down to size. And then the long ways. Let's see, if you cut edge to edge on both sides, I find the extra used in the little ridge of the spine to get it where, yeah, that might work with thinner fabric, but this is like really thick fabric and it has a lot of like ridges. It's not gonna go in here too much, but I see what you mean. I could see how the compensation for that would work. Maybe I'll try that on my next journal and see how that goes. That might solve the little issue I have. Sometimes, not all the times, but just sometimes. Okay. That does sound like a solution, Safina. Thank you for the tip. I'll take that into consideration the next time, I promise. Because I want to try that out, actually. Sounds like a hot tip. Okay. So, for the most part, it's the same size. There's a couple spots where it could have been a little bit longer right here. But you know what? This is handmade. I'm okay with that. Am I okay with that? Maybe I'll do it again. I don't know. We'll see. That's the trick. That's the only trick with this hidden spine technique. Is trying to get this to be the exact size that you want it to be. But I think it's okay. Oh, right there, the paper. Okay, so right here, the paper itself. Oh, okay. So it wasn't me. The paper itself right here is crooked. It's not me because the thickness right here is not the same as the thickness right there. So that's not on me. That is on this book, which maybe was handmade. Because I just noticed the thickness goes from thick to really, really thin. So it's not my fault. Bam, in your face. Okay, so on tomorrow's video, I'm going to come back and actually sew on the signatures to show you guys the next step of this hidden spine tutorial, which is sewing on the signatures to this fabric paper that we made today. So thank you guys so much for joining me on today's tutorial. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, like I do every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. So thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.